Amplified unit. Salute. Top of the morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world, it is time to wake up, and get amplified. Get rockin', unit. And this was a big, massive angle last night for NXT that we're going to go over, man. A massive situation took place after what is easily Match of the Year candidate for the ladies. I know it's early in the year, and this is one of those matches that you're going to have to top if you want that crown at the end of the year. Because this topped any WWE Women's Elimination Chamber from earlier in the year. This tops Britt Baker and Saraya from AEW. This tops even my girl, Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, and Kairi Sane over in Japan. Or that was West Coast representing Japan. And that was, I mean, it just pales in comparison when you talk in terms of physicality, sequences, mannerisms, facial expressions, sheer top to bottom wrestling. Man, did Rok-C, Roxanne Perez, and Meiko Satomura, did they tear it down last night? It's one of those matches that you absolutely wish it wasn't just in that under the lights of that small crowd. Much love and respect to them as well, man. They see a lot of wrestling in that small little place. And they raise a lot of hell and a lot of noise. But it's one of those things that you wish was on a much grander stage. But sometimes you never know when magic is going to occur. You could put a match at WrestleMania that you think is going to tear the place down, and it ends up being a complete dud. You could put a match up on a regular Monday Night Raw or an AEW Dynamite, a fucking Rampage, or a WWE fucking .com show. Put a match on the bump, and all of a sudden it's the talk of the wrestling world. You never know when magic is going to occur. It occurred last night with Rok-C, Roxanne Perez, and Meiko Satomura. Just over 15 minutes of a contest. Started just before the 10 p.m. Eastern Time hour. Went well to approximately 10:15, 10:16. And Rok-C just took an ass whooping for the ages. Rok-C got just the shit kicked out of her. She squeaked out the victory. I can't stand the roll-up. But if you watch this after a 15-minute war, not just a fight, not a battle, not just a wrestling match, a war. If you see how Rok-C did the roll-up, after one, when she's already rolling up Meiko, watch what happens by the count of two. Watch it. This is how great Rok-C is in making things believable, right? I know you just went through a 15-minute war. Meiko, just like you, is absolutely exhausted. But you still gotta go the extra mile. Give a fuck. Make us believe even more to the 10th degree. And by the count of two, Rok-C transitions and puts her entire body weight onto Meiko Satomura. So the roll-up is way more believable. It's not like Ricochet rolling up Braun Strowman in 4 minutes, right? It just added so much to the believability. I would have gone away from the roll-up. But this is their way to try to protect Satomura, I understand. But I would have done it differently, but because the match was so incredible, and the way that Rok-C did the roll-up, literally, when I say the words no harm, no foul, this is that instance. And then afterwards, what an angle that transpired as Satomura gives the title to Rok-C. I mean, this is teacher-student, basically. No disrespect to Booker T, who was there giving praise to Rok-C the entire night, as he always is. But Satomura has been teaching her so much. They've been working so close together. And this is somebody with veteran experience that dates back to 1995, believe it or not. So to see her give that title and show that respect and lift up Rok-C's hand, Roxanne Perez, it was so special. And then you see her her feet start to go on her, and then she just face plants into the canvas. Rok-C completely passes out. Medical personnel, refs, everybody hits the ring. The crowd is shook. and she's loaded up onto the stretcher, taken backstage. The camera follows it. She's loaded into the ambulance, and we're past our time. We fade to black, and we go off the air. Rok-C, WWE put out a statement. She was kept overnight in the hospital for observation and more tests. Now, here's the thing, unit. And again, what an angle on that. Passes out, middle of the ring. Massive angle for NXT. Now, here's the thing. Absolute storyline for anybody that's like the freaking out, because there was a lot of people. It was done so beautifully. Rok-C is so good at what she does that there was a lot of people that were, oh, fuck, is she all right? We got to get updates. What the fuck? Guys, it was all storyline, I promise you. I have many, many close people in the medical profession. Every type, every department, every placement in the medical professional world. I have people that are very close to me, and they've all said the same thing many times. If you see something happen that fast, it's not real per se. I hate to use that word because I hate the F word in pro wrestling, but you will never see somebody flipped over that quickly if there's an injury, because you have to locate what it is. You have to know what it is. You'll never see him flipped over that quickly. You'll never see him get a neck brace that quickly and that recklessly. You'll never see them loaded onto a spinal board or the fucking backboard that quickly. You'll never see him fucking brought up while Shawn Michaels is putting the oxygen mask onto Rok-C. You'll never see that, man. The EMTs and everybody will have that fucking straightened out. I promise you, they will not depend on Shawn Michaels to put oxygen on you. And then they won't fucking just jack you up into the ambulance that quickly. It takes a process. Even if it's a heart attack, you stay right there on that ground for a while. Unfortunately, the EMTs have to do what they can do. And then if they get some signs of life on you, then they can act accordingly. But they have to do a lot of business, even if it's a heart attack. If they think you have a concussion or a spinal injury or a neck injury, anything like that, you are there for a while. It takes a long time to position you, turn you over, get your neck situated. It all happened within 3 minutes last night because they had to rush the finish. They were only going to approximately 10:15 p.m. Eastern time. So I promise you guys, you put all of the little details together. It's just storyline. WWE went the extra mile. NXT and their websites, they put out that she is being evaluated overnight. So they really added on layers to that. But the way that Rok-C sold this motherfucker, you have the wrestling world, a lot of them who don't know any better, they truly think that Rok-C passed the fuck out after a grueling war. What a concept. Make your audience believe in what they're seeing. Even the most jaded of fans that say, oh, no, that's a work. That's a work. She didn't actually pass out, right? I mean, let me just fucking Google this anyway, man. I gotta find out some stuff. They started to write because they're like, well, it's definitely a word, but wait a second, that was done so good, bro. And after that ass whooping, if you guys see the match, it's a match of the year candidate easily for the ladies. I don't even care. What place? Why? Are you kidding me? I've seen I've seen this the Kairi Sane versus Mercedes Moné's. I've seen your Sarayas and Bakers, your Haters and Storms, and all their matches. I've seen the WWE Women's Elimination Chamber, the Rumbles, the Bianca Belair's title match, Charlotte Flair's. Guys, I know that it's early in the year. That was the total package. Rok-C and Meiko Satomura absolutely gave me everything I could ask for in a just over 15-minute war match where Rok-C came out as the victor, but the ultimate loser, some would say, because she's clinging on to some severe injuries, it looks like, storyline-wise. And it's the ultimate respect to Meiko Satomura, showing how dominant she is, that even though you won the match, you done passed the fuck out. That's my girl, Rok-C, Roxanne Perez. I'll always call her Rok-C, just so you know. And it was so good to see that match. And for those that are going, well, basically, that's your girl, it's Rok-C. Of course, you're going to say match of the year so far for the ladies. I would have said that no matter what. That was watch it yourself. Watch the physicality. Watch the mannerisms, facial expressions, the selling, the all-out wrestling from top to bottom, beginning to end, start to finish. And you will most likely walk away a Rok-C, Roxanne Perez fan, and Meiko Satomura. What a fucking main event. We're going to go all over it in this NXT Roadblock 3/7/23 review. Also last night, the Grayson Waller effect with Shawn Michaels. This dude went deep. Onto Shawn Michaels, man. Scathing promo on poor Michael Hicknambotnam, the real name of Shawn Michaels, for those of you that don't know. Michael Hicknambotnam got hit with stinger after zinger. Stinger and zinger, and then got fucking uppercuts. Grayson was going for the verbal knockout, but Shawn Michaels was not going to allow it. And when it was all said and done, he said, "You're going to get your Mania match, but it ain't going to be against me." And he brought back a badass former alumni of NXT. We're going to go all over that coming up. And also Jacy Jayne, Gigi Dolan. The grudge match heard round the world. We've all been waiting for this one. Man, it was just a packed second hour of NXT Roadblock 3/7/23. So we're going to talk all about it, and it's going to be right now. Let me get a swig of coffee, and there's a few other things I want to talk to. WWE RAW's rating has come out. I want to discuss that real quick as well. So let me get a big swig, and we're going to rock this bitch. Salute. All right, so Monday Night Raw's rating. They came in, they clocked in this week at a 1.83, just under 1.83, which is up from last week's just over 1.76. So they went between roughly 60,000 viewers more this week. Now, double-edged sword kind of, right? And guys, I just popped this coffee, to be honest, so I'm going to be drinking many swigs probably during this review, and one of those extra swigs is going to be right now, if you don't mind, just so I can remain amplified for you guys. Give me 1 second. I'm going to break down that number in a second. Thank you. Salute. So that number is a double-edged sword because on one way you do look at it, you went up. Obviously, you got John Cena, and it's gearing toward WrestleMania. You shouldn't be too shocked. The first 2 hours were not that good. The third hour was jacked. Really good. So the tale of two tapes on the show itself, but John Cena's enough, you got to think to bump them up. And they did. They bumped up 60,000 viewers, basically. That's the good news, right? Catapult over 1.8. The bad news is, I'm pretty sure they were at the bare minimum hoping for over 1.9 here. You got John Cena. You're close to Mania. You jacked up your card for Boston. First 2 hours didn't really deliver. Third, again, over-deliver. I mean, it was fucking beautiful. Matchups, storylines, everything you could think of. Promos with John Cena and Theory. Passing the torch to Cody. Everything happened in that third hour. But you got to believe that they jacked up that show for Boston, promo-wise anyway. It's a promotional, marketing. And then you got John Cena on top of it. It's Boston. And you got to believe the bare minimum, they were probably hoping for 2. But they didn't even clinch 1, and not even really close. They were still about 70 to 80,000-ish, 75 maybe, away from 1.9. I mean, that's a pretty sizable margin. 75,000 human beings, that's a sizable margin. So no doubt, I'm not flooring them. They gained 60 G's, 60,000 viewers, I understand. And you had to believe that they were going to fly out of the 1.7s. So that's good news for them. I feel that WWE RAW lately has had a pulse, which is so welcoming because for years it seemed like they didn't. I thought they would at least pull a 1.9, just like I'm sure the WWE executives in suits and ties did, but they did not. So it's going to be interesting. We don't get full breakdowns like we do for an AEW Dynamite or a Friday Night SmackDown. We don't get those type of demos. None of us do in the numbers game. But so Raw's much different with that, especially being 3 hours. But it's going to be interesting to see. Like we do get numbers. We do get breakdowns. It'll be interesting to see who drew what, because even though they gained, it just seems low to BC. So we'll see. And again, that third hour, I'm sure that's going to bring some motherfuckers to the yard next week. Once they hear a lot of what happened, I'm pretty sure that's going to see an uptick over 1.82. I don't know if it's going to hit the 1.9. You know, Monday Night Raw has been so bad for so long that even though it has a pulse now, it gets a little better now. There's still so many fans that are like, hell no, I ain't getting burned by these dudes. And it's the same thing with AEW on Wednesday night, right? Tony Khan has burned his own audience so many times with announcements and no real great stories to sink your teeth into for 4 fucking years. A couple here and there. But fans are just like, all right, I'm kind of done, man. I can do better things with my Wednesday night. Well, a lot of people are like that for Monday nights. So it's gonna be hard. When you're bad for so long and you dig your own hole so fucking deep, and then you decide, hey, we're alive now, we want to rock. Well, now you're gonna have to work twice, 3, 4 times, 10 times as hard just to get the people you once had back. You know, vicious cycle. That's why I said for 6 years I've had this channel. I've said, be careful. You guys are going so far, but you guys meaning WWE, you're going so far back, you're making it harder for yourself. And when people said, well, once football is done, once they're off Monday Night Football in that little competition, they're going to get it all back, BC. There'll be 2 5s. And I'm like, what do you do? They're not going to see 2 5 for the longest time on Monday nights. Let's hope they can one day even get back to 2 5. Don't even talk about 2. Don't even talk 2.2. Let's just see if they can consistently hit 2 million. Right? Because I told you guys all of last year, I said they're going so far backwards that even when football is done, you're not just going to get 500,000 viewers back because a game is not on cable anymore. No, it's going to take more than a game being off your competition radar to get 500,000 viewers back. Because when those people start seeing that they can not watch and they're not going to lose any sleep over it, and they do it the next week and the next week, it becomes a trend. And they start telling themselves, well, wait a second. I missed Raw for 4 weeks and I'm not feeling any different. I don't feel any FOMO, fear of missing out. I'm good. And it becomes a trend. And throughout the whole football season, you're talking fucking 16, 17 weeks. So by the end of over 4 months, and you lost so many people for so long, they're not just going to come back because football is done. And BC was right all along. It was me all along. I was right. Here we are. Football is gone, and they're struggling in the 1718s with actually decent shows. Whether you think they're good or not, that's in the eye of the beholder. But at least there's a pulse on Monday Night Raw. And it sucks that the numbers aren't showing that. But you can blame WWE's Vincent Kennedy for that, man. That was literally his ship for 10 years. Still might have a big blueprint on it. Obviously, he does. He's still the owner, but you know, how much does 3H's actually have control of everything? Perhaps we will never know, or it'll take a long time to know. But it was bad for so long, and nobody cared in the company. And this is why, now that you're starting to see a lot of good things on Raw, the numbers are not showing that necessarily, because you've lost your fan base. You either lied to them too many times, or they got so jaded on your bullshit so many times. You got to be careful on Wednesday nights. The dude over there, Tony Khan, he's doing the same thing. His weird, awkward, befuddling booking, bullshitting his own audience on these stupid announcements that don't carry any weight when they're announced. He's got to be careful, because his own fans are going, all right, bro, come on, man. Fool me once, that's one thing. Fool me twice, all right, what the fuck? 3 times, I'm fucking out, bro. It's like baseball. I gave you fucking 10 strikes. In what baseball game have you ever seen a batter get 10 strikes? So anyway, that's the numbers, guys. That came out later last evening. Right before NXT. BC caught wind of that. So I wanted to talk about that before I get into this review. Salute again. I got to get a massive swig here, and we'll start Roadblock, guys. Grayson Waller effect with Michaels. Damn. NXT alumni comes back. Massive main event. Grudge match for the century. First match was a fucking jailhouse fucking street fight. But how we started was actually Tiffany Stratton. The beautiful Tiffany Stratton sold this show from the jump. They had her cut at an intro for the entire lineup of the night. And by the end of it, BC just wanted more Tiffany. I guess that's the point, right? Like, I guess that's what they were going for, right? You're not on the card, but we want to sell everybody on you. So you're going to do the intro. And by the end of the fucking 3-4 minute intro, BC was like, can we get more Tiffany Stratton? So I thought that was awesome. It was real pay-per-view-esque, you know? She set the table for something very special. So I thought that was awesome, man. Very, very well done. And sometimes it's just those little details, man. I don't know if that's a Shawn Michaels, Michael Hicknam-Bottom type thing. If that's Albert's thing backstage in NXT. I don't know if that was a directive from Levesque, but it was a very, very nice touch to start it off, almost like a takeover would start off. I was awaiting like a rock band afterwards to start us off like it's a takeover. First match of Roadblock is Dijak versus Tony D'Angelo in a jailhouse street fight. Now, BC would have had the loser sent straight to jail, a la SummerSlam 1991. Big Boss Man versus the Mountie. Mountie loses the match, is immediately sent to jail. And during that SummerSlam show, afterwards, after every match, or at least on Coliseum home video, because I was younger then, obviously, perhaps too young, but I remember watching it a billion times on Coliseum home video. That's VHS for those of you who are younger fans. We used to have these big things we'd have to put into a big machine and watch it over and over. But at least on Coliseum home video, they kept on going back to the jail, and they would show Mountie after every match. He would be processed. Then after another match, he's in the cell and he's crying for his mom. Boss man, help, get me out. I don't belong here. And it was a whole thing throughout SummerSlam, guys. They just made it so fun. Back in the day, they just really dedicated everything to storylines, characters, right? You had Big Boss Man and Mountie. It was fucking law enforcement versus law enforcement. It works. Don't over fucking complicate shit. Simplify it. Storylines, man. Anyway, I was hoping for something like that, but instead, they had a big jail cell located in the aisleway. Now, that was welcoming, because for a second, I was like doing my notes or getting my notes situated, grabbing a coffee, maybe I blinked, but I didn't see the big cell at first in the aisleway. So, guys, I just saw some tables, some chairs, and I'm thinking, okay, it's a jailhouse street fight, but I'm only looking at a street fight. Like, you better do something to make this like a fucking jail cell match. And then all of a sudden, like, the skies open up. I see this massive fucking cell structure in the aisleway. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I like it. So basically, guys, think of it as like, if you're going to do, this is like the beginning level if it was a video game. It's the beginning level of like a casket match, right? This would be the beginner's level. You just got to throw them in this massive cell, right? That's the easy version of a casket match. But I was down with it, man. It's interesting. It's fun. This was a 10-minute bout. And of course, to win the match, you just got to lock your opponent inside this massive cell structure. So, Dijak, man, he tapped into his inner Rey Mysterio last night. Dude flies around there with his fucking size like he is a cruiserweight. This dude was flying. So picture this, all right? He hits a flying springboard elbow drop all the way to the outside and through Tony D and a table. So Tony D's on the outside. He's laying on a table. Dijak is in the ring, and this motherfucker flying springboard elbow drop all the way to the outside through D'Angelo and the table. What the fuck? At his size, who the fuck does that shit? I mean, of course, we got a handful of people, but only a handful at that fucking size. And how athletic and his agility. Fuck, bro. What in the world? Dude took an inadvertent flapjack on the steel chairs from the top rope. So picture that. Dijak's up at the top. D'Angelo basically just fucking flips him ass over tea kettle, man. Inadverted, flips inside out. And he lands on fucking steel chairs on his fucking face and stomach. Again, at his size, who the fuck? Who does that shit? So seamlessly. So flawlessly, man. So fluently, right? It's just a thing of fucking beauty, man. It totally reminded us all of Dominik Dijakovic, the Dominik Dijakovic that we all remembered in NXT previous, right? And not that rotten stench of T-Bar in Retribution, right? It reminded us just how good Dominik Dijakovic truly is. Dijak. This whole match was just like reminding BC, like, how the fuck did this not work on the main roster? Oh yeah, Vinnie Mac put him in leather suspenders and gave him a medieval times fucking helmet. Tell you, bro. Dijak had this thing won, to be honest, but Stacks literally risked his own body getting smashed between the cell door and the cell. So, I mean, it's like one of those situations. D'Angelo's in the fucking cell. Dijak's about to thrust that cell door shut and win the match. Stacks comes out of nowhere like it's one of those slow motion scenes and you're trying to push somebody out of the bus's direction. You know, you're about to get hit by a fucking train or a bus and you dive to push him out of the way. It was like a slow motion thing. Stacks is like, no! And he fucking gets his whole body between the cell door before it's thrusted into the cell. And he just crushes his own body on behalf of D'Angelo. D'Angelo comes out with like a crowbar or some shit. You can add the assist to a crowbar. Fucking decks Dijak, and Dijak ends up in the cell. Lock that thing up. Tony D gets the big W. Tony D gets the W. Fun start to the show. Like I said, 10 minutes. You started off with Stratton setting up the lineup. You have a fun match like this just to set the tone for the night. And that whole first segment, that whole first 15-minute block, no pun intended with cell block, but that whole first 15-minute block, that first 15-minute Q1 seg, salute, man. I think that's how you set the tone. And you reminded everybody, even in defeat, you remind everybody just how fucking good Dijak is. And let's not act. Some people are like, oh, man, how the hell do you have him lose? But look how he did, man. Look what he did in that match. And at the end, it took fucking Stacks literally putting his bot on the line and a fucking crowbar or some shit. I mean, let's not act like the deck wasn't completely stacked against Dijak. And then it just got better for BC because my girl Rok-C was backstage. Rok-C is giving a heartfelt promo on what beating Meiko Satomura means to her and how she needs this victory more than any other thus far in her career. Again, guys, this is like a teacher-student thing. No disrespect to Booker T. We know he trained her, but Satomura has been working with her so vividly and closely for so long now. And this is a veteran from back to 1995. 43 years old, I believe, is Meiko Satomura. I believe she's about 43. Yeah, not 44 yet. I'm going to say 43 years old. I mean, this is a veteran. And you have a young lady like Rok-C that just turned 21, guys. A 43-year-old veteran who's toured the world and dominated this sport in so many ways. Bad, slight technical difficulties there. But you have this veteran like Satomura, 43, and you have this younger gal coming up at 21 and already dominating. But Satomura can teach her so much. The things that she's going to see in this business over the next 2 decades. The things that she's going to go through. The adversities she has to struggle through. And the ways to overcome it. That is like a teacher-student type thing that's developing before our eyes. And to see them in that main event last night, man. And to know what that meant to Rok-C. You heard that in her words in that backstage promo, man. So badass. But that would be second hour of that main event. And that was a packed second hour. But first, let's continue with the first hour. Gallus boys, middle of the ring. Pretty Deadly make it clear with the quickness that they want their gold back, but it's clear they can't really do anything about it because Gallus just whoops their fucking asses. So if Pretty Deadly's gonna fucking even try to take these titles away from Gallus, it's not just gonna be a trick or two up their sleeves. They're gonna have to bring a whole bag of tricks to the ring. They're going to have like a Jake the Snake Roberts Damien bag. You remember Damien the Snake? Well, minus the snake, but put a bunch of fucking tricks in that bag. Take it to the ring because you're going to have to use everything in your arsenal plus if you're going to try to take those titles from Gallus. Because what I saw last night is Pretty Deadly has no fucking answers for these boys. They're coming for an ass whooping, and they're going to do it time after time unless Pretty Deadly gets smart. The good news here is they're playing the role of the fucking heels clearly. So, those are the ones that usually come up with something to try to get those fucking titles. Just from what I saw last night, Gallus is not fucking scared one bit of Pretty Deadly. And I know, visually, you're thinking, well, obviously, BC. So, we'll see where that goes, man. But last night was just, I mean, they tried. It was adorable. Pretty Deadly's up in they're cutting a promo, like up in the little rafter section of this where is it? The Performance Center, or are they calling it something else again? Wherever it is, man. But Pretty Deadly's up in the little rafter section, and Gallus is like, well, come on down then. And Pretty Deadly's, oh, I didn't think of that. Okay. They come down, and literally 10 seconds later, they're outside with their asses whooped. I just don't understand that type of game planning, Pretty Deadly. And then we end hour number 1, Bron Breakker and the Creed brothers versus Jinder and Indus. They show Dragon Lee front row in attendance. Business is about to pick up in NXT, I'll tell you that. Dragon Lee looks like he's ready to go right now, man. They're just waiting creatively. BC has not seen Veer in a long-ass time. In fact, the last time I even heard about Veer, he was headed to Raw. For about 7 straight months, he was headed to Raw. We heard word around the campfire and around the rumor mill that he got lost and found his way to Antarctica somehow. I don't even know how you get to Antarctica. Somehow Veer found out. We heard that he accidentally took a detour to the Neverlands. I didn't even think the Neverlands were a real thing. Apparently Veer can confirm. And about 7 months later, Veer showed up to Raw for a couple of weeks, and then he got lost again. Probably the same woods that Elias got lost in for 3 months. But Veer finally found a home in NXT again, and he's part of Indus. Bro, it looked like Breakker has been tagging with the Creeds for years. I mean, you can tell that this dude came from a La Familia of one of the greatest tag teams in the world ever. The Steiner brothers, Rick and Scotty. You can tell that's his La Familia, because this dude seamlessly can enter a tag team, and he looks like he just fucking fits. I mean, this was just flawless on Bron Breakker. The finish sees Veer pinned by the Brutus Ball of the Creed brothers. I guess that's what it's called. It's the first I'm hearing about it. It's the Brutus Ball. Fucking alright. I guess that's what they're calling it, man. That double team that ends Veer's night, and poor Jinder Mahal, he cannot buy a victory. Even in NXT, Jinder Mahal cannot buy a W. If he had all of Vince McMahon's money, he couldn't buy a W. My boy, Jinder. I think he's just got to start from the ground up. He's got to go to the local bingo hall and start, getting smaller victories. Beat Danny Dipshit Dugenheimer. Defeat fucking fuckwad Fred. My local pizza delivery guy, Luigi Lugnuts, right? Paulie Walnuts. But let's start at the bottom. I think Jinder needs a little bit of a reset, to say the least. So hour 1, not bad. It was definitely the sour hour of the two. It is clear they stacked hour 2 of NXT Roadblock, and we're going to go over that right now, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But hour 1 was not bad at all. It did what it needed to do. It kept you tuned in for hour number 2. Now here's where the real fun begins. Grayson Waller Effect starts hour 2 with Shawn Michaels. Now, they've been having a really good storyline. I'm not as vivid in tuned with NXT as I would like to be. But one of the things that I've been keeping tabs on is how good they've been doing this Waller-Michaels story. I mean, this is something that should be done like on the main roster more often. It's the simplest type of a storyline, and it just is effective, right? The power, the authority, and the anti, whether that's a face or a heel. I know they try to do some things with like Adam Pearce. It's just, come on. He's a stooge. He's not really authority. So, some of the better parts of Monday Night Raw in recent history, whether you like McMahon or not, McMahon, Stone Cold, and the authority as a whole in many individuals in the locker room during the Attitude Era. When Triple H was parading around power with somebody like CM Punk, that those were good altercations. I remember Triple H, Paul Levesque in his suit and tie, and he's staring right at Phil Brooks, CM Punk, and they had good promos because, first of all, they really can't stand one another, but I mean, you're looking at the time a very anti-WWE authority and Paul Levesque. I mean, it just works, guys. And Shawn Michaels putting himself out there for Grayson Waller's benefit. I've just been keeping tabs on this really good, and it all culminated to last night. The crowd was legit singing HBK's theme after the music stopped. Guys, word for word, it was hilarious. If you saw Monday, like The Miz, and he couldn't get a word out between Logan Paul and Seth Rollins, and everyone's like, oh. Well, this was just like, yeah, I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy. And there's no music playing, guys. They just were singing the entire song. It was just hilarious. So Waller can't fucking keep a straight face. Shawn Michaels is smiling. The thing was about to go off the rails. Luckily, Waller, being a good heel, he brought it back. You just got to talk over it after a while. But it was absolutely funny, man. It was actually epic for a minute there. I'm like, oh, they hitting every fucking word. Okay. Grayson dug and went deep on poor Shawn Michaels on this one, man. I mean, he's scathing. And you know Michaels said, hit me with it all. And Grayson said, all right. These are actual quotes from Grayson Waller as he... I love the setup with the Grayson Waller effect too, man. It's like fucking Miami Vice or some shit, you know? You got the palm trees. It's a nice dim lighting. You would think it was the old WCW Nitro days when they were at the... remember they would take Nitro and they would put it in was it Palm Springs? But they were doing Nitro right at like a nice spring break location. You got a pool, sexy girls with beach balls, and there's wrestling matches going on with a hot and drunk crowd, fucking raucous. And that's our Nitro. I mean, it was like that type of atmosphere, those old Nitro days with the spring break episodes. So the setup was awesome. Michaels is staring right at Waller while Waller says, and these are actual quotes, Waller says to Michaels, my mother told me not to be an HBK guy, be a Bret Hart guy. And right there, Michaels is like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is where we're going with this shit. You're going to start off just with the fucking, just going for it, right? And he didn't stop there, man. Waller says, and I quote, you turned into what you once despised, Vince McMahon. You're running NXT into the ground. The only reason you're my boss is because your best friend had a heart attack. I mean, bro, he was one stinger after zinger after another, bro. And I'm telling you right now, man, Michaels finally, and he showed it too. Michaels had enough. He gets in Waller's face and he literally says, enough. That's it. So you have Michaels pissed off. Waller says... Oh, no. After he says enough, Michael says, you can run me down all you want. You will not run this brand down. And Waller says, why? Does it piss you off? Michael says, yeah, it does. Waller says, then do something about it. And Michael says, oh no, that's when Waller said, actually, laid down a challenge for Mania, Stand and Deliver weekend. That's going to be Saturday morning, by the way. For those of you that don't know Stand and Deliver, that's NXT's big PPV event, basically. Premium Live, whatever you want to call it. That's actually going to be before night one of Mania. So if you're over in California, you got to get up at like 8 in the morning because that show's going to start at about 10 a.m. If you're on the East Coast, it's going to start at 1 p.m. So that's a big Saturday. But Waller lays down the challenge. He says, well, then do something about it. Me, you, HBK, Stand and Deliver WrestleMania weekend. And Michael says, you know, for the last 10 years, they've been stacking bodies up and trying to get me to wrestle and calling them dream matches. And for the last 10 years, I've been saying no. What makes you think you're any different? You're just the latest guy in 2023. Nothing special. He says, you're not going to get me at WrestleMania, but you are going to get your WrestleMania weekend match. Stand and Deliver, you will be taking on this guy. Enter Johnny Wrestling. Johnny Gargano returns to NXT. Bro, so special to see this dude of all people, man, and what he meant to NXT. I know there's the detractors that say too many people from the main roster are going to NXT. And a lot of it is they don't even have anything for them on the main roster. New Day, there was nothing. They become NXT Tag Team Champions. Jinder Mahal, there was jack shit. He's in NXT taking on Bron Breakker for world titles. Apollo, they had nothing. He goes down to NXT. And now it's Johnny Wrestling. It's clear they don't know what to do with him. And that's weird because 3 H's is supposed to be running the ship over there. This could have been a request from Michaels. Either way, guys, I like this. Waller and Johnny Gargano match-wise is going to be fucking just really good. it looks like they're going to devote time to tell a story too, because Johnny Gargano is already advertised for next week's NXT show. So I expect Waller and him to have a nice face-to-face or some type of story development. So this is still going to be good. And while you're ironing something out for Johnny Gargano, this was such a good moment for last night. It's a huge boost for NXT. It's going to help Waller tenfold and get more eyeballs over to him. I don't see a problem with this necessarily. There are some people that go from the main roster to NXT, and it's befuddling. This didn't just make sense. It felt right. It was such an awesome moment, and I'm looking forward to the match and story that they'll tell over the next 3 to 4 weeks. Johnny Gargano, Johnny Wrestling. A lot of people look at him as Mr. NXT. I'm not going to debate or argue that, I promise you, because you could easily make that argument and debate that. He returned to NXT last night under Shawn Michaels' orders to take care of Grayson Waller. What a match. What a treat. You guys are going to show up early in the morning in California, 10 a.m. to see that match at Stand and Deliver. Johnny Gargano, what a fucking start to hour 2. And it was not going to loosen up, lighten up. I can fucking speak. Let me have some more fucking coffee, and then I'm going to get the Gigi Dolan versus Jacy Jayne, the grudge match heard around the world, to put the final nail in the coffin of Toxic Attraction once and for all. Sadly, because I feel they were the one of, if not the best. I'm going to go male as well, bro. Male and female, because the Hurt Business was totally fucking botched. Judgment Day is still trying to find their footing. Bloodline, yes, they're in a whole nother league. But male and female, Toxic Attraction was one of the best groups in pro wrestling in recent years. So I'll get to that after this swig. Massive swig coming up too, so give me a couple of seconds. That's going to hit the spot. Gigi Dolan, Jacy Jayne grudge match. Match time clocked in at roughly 8 minutes, give or take a few seconds. Jayne rocked most of the offense in this matchup, but Gigi stayed the course. And it's the old saying, BC always says this, as long as you're still in the game, you still got a chance to win. No matter how small that chance is, as long as you're in the game, you got a chance to win. Well, Gigi remained in this game, and the longer she stayed in it, believe it or not, her chances improved. And when this thing was all said and done, no joke, bro, Gigi stayed in the game and rocked Jacy Jayne's dome piece, pinning Jayne 1, 2, 3. Gigi gets the fucking massive W. Now, I don't know, and this is where I would ask JR9, if you made it this far into the review, man, I would ask, how is this how you saw that going, and you see now Jayne going maybe main roster, and that's why they went that route? Post-match, Jayne kept her heel identity flawless by attacking Gigi, beating the shit out of her, until like a bunch of refs came down and finally, because she was going to fucking snap this girl in half. So Jayne looked dominant afterwards. So it's one of those things where you give Gigi to win, make her look good, and then you keep Jayne with momentum so she doesn't look like an idiot. I get what they did. I was still kind of taken back at how, I don't want to say easily, because Jayne had most of the match offense-wise. But wow, I mean, when Gigi won, I was kind of like, well, what the fuck? So JR9, man, interesting. JR9's my right-hand man on the channel. Very vivid into all things NXT. Way more grounded on NXT than BC, I assure you. So it'll be interesting to see how you saw that going, because it wasn't exactly how BC would have booked it, but maybe it's because I don't see the trajectory that maybe you see Shawn going with. So it's going to be interesting for me to see. I mean, was that the ending? Jayne, right there, you think, okay, Gigi got it. Maybe somebody's moving on. Who knows? But that looked like to be the final nail in the coffin of Toxic Attraction finally. And then Jayne attacks her, and it kind of leaves the door open for another, stand and deliver match, I guess? A rematch? I don't know, man. But it was fun to see these two go at it, because if you know their history, man, you know, it's bittersweet. I liked Toxic Attraction. I do. And I know that, you know, it comes a time where people got to move on their own and show that everyone that they can they're either going to swim or they're going to sink, right? There's the only two options when you're by yourself. So I understand those times come, but Toxic Attraction was so good. So you kind of miss that a little bit, but then it's like, damn, you do get to see a good story like this and them fucking have this grudge match. Anyway, that's all I'll say about that. Gigi with the W. Jacy looked strong afterwards by just beating the shit out of her. And I just don't know exactly where they go next with this. Or maybe there is a call-up or a rematch at Stand and Deliver. Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes face-to-face to set up their Stand and Deliver WrestleMania title match. Braun lets out a massive piece of information, man. Bringing up, with a live mic right in front of Carmelo Hayes, he brings up the big meeting that WWE had with them, letting them all know that NXT was about to change, the whole 2.0 shit, all that. And if you guys remember back then, man, I was the only one reporting that H was in all those meetings or privy to it all. It happened way before the heart issue and everything, guys, that they were starting to talk to NXT talent. And, you know, I got a lot of pushback. Oh, but you say, no, man, no, he wasn't. This is Vince McMahon just totally derailing everything that Triple H created. And listen, we don't know. At the end of the day, if Vince ever wants to do a tell-all, that's fine. The point I was making the whole time was that's what I meant when I said Paul Levesque was always a yes man to Vince and never really stood up in the most epic of ways when he should. He went along with the whole NXT change, guys, because he knew it's business. And he knew that he was going to see the promised land of WWE's main roster anyway. He was going to get that mad money. He was going to do what Vince says anyway. It's Vince's dime. He inherited Dusty Rhodes' NXT anyway. He had a few good years, got his ass whooped by Tony Khan for a while there, had to move over to back to Tuesday nights, and he was just drained, I think. And he was like, all right, let's fucking change it up, and let me put it in your hands, because I'm fucking done. And I was reporting everything that I was being told by my people down in Florida. And they're, if not correct all the time, they're pretty damn fucking flawlessly close. And I got a lot of pushback for that. But I was like, and then you heard there was a production person who was in the meetings and he did a tell-all. And he said, no, H was there with Vince when they did the initial meeting in front of the NXT training rings. And they put all the talent in front of everybody. And that production guy said H was right there telling everybody, relax, it's all good. These are going to be massive changes, but for the better. So I told you guys, man, it wasn't just like H was having a hard time and Vince was just crushing him like a fucking cockroach. H was a part of this the whole time. These meetings between Vince and H were happening in Stanford, and then they'd fly down to Orlando until that was his time to say, Vince, what the fuck? You're ruining everything I create? No, man. H was like, all right, whatever, bro. Just let me get X, Y, and Z. And as long as you're promising me this, A, B, and C, we're good. Do whatever you want. It's your fucking money. It's your company. I just got to play around with it for a few years. Thank you. I took it from Dusty Rhodes and, got to have some fun for a few years. And then it started not being fun because I got my ass whooped. Again, not shade to 3 H's, because I've been saying lately, man, the product has a pulse finally. I'm starting to enjoy Monday Night Raw and SmackDown a lot more than I did in recent years. So that's much praise. If H has a big hand in that, salute. I'm starting to enjoy the product more. So that shows you it's no shade. But I was absolutely 1,000,000,000% correct when I said that H was involved in everything Vince was doing back then. Even when he was down and out with the heart issue. He was privy to everything my people were saying, and they were right, because every fact that we get now, even this promo saying, do you remember when Shawn and Triple H and Vince all sat us down? Yeah, I caught that. I got a lot of pushback for that. No, I've heard multiple, not just my people, man, multiple reputable people that were in those meetings. From production to talent, I've heard enough to know that H was a part of it all. So anyway, that's a little side note that may have passed by a lot of people. I caught that, man. And that was huge. It shows you that H was a part of this way before the actual change to NXT even occurred. That was being talked about for months. As far as the face-to-face, it was good. They're doing the respect thing, because of their history. So it's not like one of them is just going to, they're both, pretty face status. So it's not like one of them is going to just like kick the other in the balls and then fucking hit him with a chair and go, stand and deliver, I'm taking your title. Carmelo's not going to do that. It was a respect thing. I like it at the end. Bron just holds up his championship, and this is what a lot of NXT fans have been waiting for. It's not a match that really does anything for me, per se, but I don't get to watch as vividly as a lot of fans, especially to NXT. So that's going to be special for you guys, and I'm going to be watching it. I'm most likely going to review that somehow. I don't know how, because we're going to be live. I think last year I did a double live stream, like NXT and WrestleMania. But I'll be watching. I'll be hoping they put on a performance. I'll be keeping tabs the next 3 to 4 weeks and hoping that the story does kick in. Because you're going to do 3 to 4 weeks of what? I respect you? Can they coexist? Well, I mean, they're friends, so it's not really can they... Well, it is kind of still can they coexist. I mean, they're going for the big title. And then they're going to put them in tag teams, I guess. I don't know. Would Shawn Michaels do the stereotypical WWE fucking type of booking? You still got weeks. I don't like the respect. It's like Kana, Asuka, and Bianca Belair over in WWE's main roster. Kana, Asuka's going for the title. She's got the murder clown personality of Kana, and she's friends with Bianca again after this past Monday. And they respect one another. Can they coexist to Mania? I hope they can't coexist. I want a story. I want them to fucking argue, debate. Can't stand one another, at least for another month. So that's Breakker and Carmelo Hayes. And then we get a Joe Gacy defeating Andre Chase. Andre Chase. Get over here, huh? Hey, Chase, get over here. I don't know where that came from. Andre Chase of Chase University. Joe Gacy defeats him via the buckshot lariat upside down, they call it. Looked like a buckshot lariat to me, but I did blink and take a sip of coffee, so maybe I saw something else. But it's his version of the buckshot lariat, I believe. I'll go back and watch. But either way, Joe Gacy should not be losing that match, and he didn't. After the match, Chase U looks like it's imploding a little bit, man. It doesn't look like everybody in Chase U is exactly thrilled about turning into a sideshow act. As far as the Rock's daughter, in Joe Gacy's faction there, that's a big gal. That is a big gal. When you saw her on the outside about to whoop some ass, it's going to be fun when she gets when the proper training has commenced and they think she's ready to rock in singles competition or tag team. Man, that's going to be fun. I hope she has that natural it factor, like her pops, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. I really hope she has the it factor. Because I don't want to watch her and it's going to be rough and go, oh no, she doesn't have it. She's not a good pro wrestler. I hope we're not saying that because she's got every other box checked off, man. She looks like a fucking engine ready to roll. Steamroll over motherfuckers. They're the fucking Prius. She's the monster truck. One's going to win. The other's going to get crushed. And then we go into the main event, NXT Women's Championship held by Rok-C, Roxanne Perez versus challenger Meiko Satomura. Big swig before I talk this bitch. Oh, brother, this was just over 15 minutes of a real badass women's wrestling match. These two went to war. Rok-C took an absolute ass whooping. Meiko takes strong style to uncharted waters and amplified measures. When describing Meiko Satomura, I always say this. It's like if Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka formed a super beast, it would be Meiko Satomura. That would be the super beast. It's strong style to another level. I always say like Xia Li, and that's going away from the Japan style, a little more Chinese style, obviously. But Xia Li is like the Brock Lesnar in that main roster. She's heavy hitting. I mean, she is very physical. If you're not on your game, if you think you're going there for tap lessons or some ballet shit, you're going to find out real quickly with Xia Li, that's not the case. And that's why it's a big shame that how she's being utilized on the main roster or not utilized. So I always called her like the Brock Lesnar of the main roster, Xia Li. Over for Meiko Satomura, she's like if Asuka and Shinsuke formed a super beast, it's Meiko Satomura. I mean, it's strong style to amplified measures in uncharted waters. She's so fucking physical. And you take somebody, a little gal like Rok-C, and you look at the ass whooping last night, and you realize that that's what makes Meiko so special. she ain't gonna let up just because you're 100 pounds soaking wet, 5 foot nothing. Barely, if even. I don't even know. But Rok-C is tiny. And she's not gonna let go of any of that physicality or let up on any of that physicality. In fact, I honestly believe she was even harder on Rok-C last night because that was so physical. The kicks, the maneuvers that were performed onto Rok-C were fucking devastating at times. She took one kick, thrusted to the upper chest neck, and I thought she was going to be knocked the fuck out, and Rok-C fucking wills her way. Like real, like legit. I thought she was going to be knocked out, and she wills her way back. They showed it in slow motion. Let's just say I was wishing they didn't afterwards because it just, but man, you felt it yourself. Rok-C is able to defeat Meiko via the roll-up. But again, after a 15-minute war, and the way that Rok-C did this, she gave a fuck about it. Right? I mean, main roster, I use this all the time. You'll see somebody like Ricochet roll up Braun Strowman in less than 4 minutes. What? Makes no sense. They're not even exhausted. 3.5 minutes? 4 minutes? But for just over 15, you could tell they were giving it their fucking all. And after the count of 1, watch what Rok-C does. She could have phoned it in. I got the roll-up applied. I'm tired. I'm going to get the same amount of money. Let's just get this over. Rok-C, after the count of 1, thrusts her entire body onto the legs of Satomura to make the roll-up so secure that she's going to have to work 10 times as hard to get out of the roll-up. That's what I ask, man. If you're going to end it with the roll-up, make it believable. The roll-up should only be performed when you just went through a war and you're exhausted. Or straight up like a total shock at the beginning of the match. But WWE's main roster, they overdo it so much that it's no longer a shock. So, no way, even though I hate the roll-up, and I'm not saying that just because Rok-C's my gal, if you just watch it yourself, watch how she did the roll-up, and you'll know what I'm talking about. That is a professional. It's the minor details that are not so minor. And that's just one of the many, the gazillion things that makes Rok-C so good. One of the gazillion reasons why BC is so strongly behind her from day one over an ROH. Yeah, many of you may not even know that, right? Now Tony Khan's bullshit version, right? This is like the bullshit ECW of WWE, right? When WWE fucking purchased over ECW and it became a shell of what it was. No, that's what ROH is today. But I'm talking about the real shit. Rok-C was fucking people up at 19, 20 years old. And it's things like how she defeated Meiko Satomura last night, man. How fucking epic. Because she knows, realistically, even though we just went through a war, this is not going to cut it. So after the count of 1, she gets even more onto the legs, man. Every part of her body, making sure that she's doing all she can to make sure Satomura does not kick out. So, no harm, no foul with that. And easily, it's not even like, I'm just thinking about it, whether Japan, AEW, WWE main roster, Raw, SmackDown, doesn't matter. This, easily, if not it's already a candidate in match of the year for the females. No doubt. Watch it from top to bottom. You'll know what I'm talking about. Watch the physicality, the mannerisms, the facial expressions, the selling, the wrestling from top to bottom. Watch it all for this 15 minutes. You'll know what I'm talking about. It's at least a candidate already, which means for the next, and we're almost a quarter of the year over. I don't know how. I mean, 2023 flying by, man. Already into March. So for the next 3 quarters of the year, this is one of the standards that the females across the world is going to have to achieve. Not saying it can't be done, so achieve it, right? I want to see it defeated. I want everybody to elevate their game after they just saw Rok-C and Meiko Satomura last night. And post-match, of course, Satomura showing the ultimate respect, handing the title over to Rok-C, hoisting her up, putting her arm in the air, and then Rok-C's feet give out on her. She stumbles forward and collapses face first onto the mat. A dramatic collapse angle. Again, storyline, guys. She's absolutely safe. It's all storyline. It was just done so beautifully. A lot of the wrestling world actually thought she was down and out, like for real. They throw her up on the board, on the stretcher, and then the camera follows her to the ambulance where they hoist her up, and we go off the air with Rok-C in what looked like grave danger at that point, man. She was in trouble. She just passed out. It reminded me a la Shawn Michaels, Owen Hart, Monday Night Raw back in 1995, I believe. If you know, you know. My OGs out there. There was a Monday Night Raw back in 1995. Shawn Michaels was going against Owen Hart, and Shawn Michaels just started to stumble, and he fell face first. He collapsed in the middle of the match. The wrestling world shook. We never saw anything like that. The most jaded of human beings thought that this was absolutely just a real thing. And Michaels just collapsed middle of the ring, man, during the match, not even post-match. Owen Hart is like, what the fuck? Referees telling them to back off. Spent a lot more time. They made this a dramatic angle. They were running out of time last night for NXT. They only had 3 minutes. So they had to literally flip Rok-C over, put her neck brace on her half-ass, wasn't even fully on. Shawn Michaels is putting the oxygen on her, not even an EMT. They load her up on a fucking spinal board, put her on the stretcher, go to jack her up in an ambulance, all within 3 minutes, which violates every fucking EMT, medical personnel, violates every fucking protocol. Everybody would be fired this morning if that was real life, guys. So trust me, it's storyline. You never load somebody. I mean, you don't know what injuries they have. You can't do that in 3 minutes. But they spent a lot of time back in 95 during that Raw match with Owen Hart when Shawn Michaels collapsed middle of the ring. It was live on air on the USA Network. And they spent like 2 segments on that shit. And it was dramatic. They showed people crying in the crowd. Grown human beings, man. Adults. In shock because, is Shawn Michaels going to make it out of the night? Nobody knew. So it reminded me of that, and Shawn Michaels worked very closely with how Rok-C was going to do this because I'm sure it brought him back to him. Maybe it was his idea to do this type of shit, but it was a massive angle after that, and it helps showcase the power, the strength, the badassery, the amplification of Meiko Satomura. Because that makes her look like a fucking brutal badass. You may have won that match. You didn't make it out of that match, though. You did not fucking walk out of that match. And she was hurt, man. They showed a close-up of Satomura, and she was fucking in the corner with her hands over her face. And this is not somebody who shows that much emotion a lot of the time. Japan as a whole just doesn't. So for her to show that type of emotion and feel that badly that she just took out her student, man. I can't tell you how well done that was. It was a jacked second hour. I mean, you start off so beautifully with Grayson Waller and Shawn Michaels. You got a great grudge match in the middle with Gigi and Jayne, and then you just go into you set up your world title match with Hayes and Bron Breakker for Stand and Deliver, and then you end it with a main event that is women's match of the year thus far. Fucking so special, man. And to my gal Rok-C, man, you did everything beautifully and damn near flawlessly last night. And to Meiko Satomura at 43 years old, you are rocking this industry, and I best see much more of you in the future. That is your NXT Roadblock 3723 review, man. It was good to see an NXT show from top to bottom. If you guys are wondering how this came about, BC, you don't really do NXT shows. To be honest, many things factored into it. It was I was getting bored on Wednesday nights, to be honest. I'm going to be fully transparent with you guys. It's going to make some people upset and cry. I get it. But I was becoming bored on Wednesday nights. And that show, that promotion was just not doing it for me. It was not fulfilling me in the way that, and after years of Raw not doing it for me, and now finally has a pulse, I didn't want to go through this again on Wednesday nights. And my right-hand man on the channel, J9 Gaming, is always talking so positively about NXT, and I keep tabs on it, as I do. You guys may not know this. I keep tabs on Japan, Impact Wrestling, as much as I don't want to admit it for some reasons. Josh Matthews. But But I keep tabs on the wrestling world nonstop, and I have people down in Florida that know much more than me, and they're always telling me a boatload of info on the daily. So I'm always keeping tabs. So it was a lot of, I was like, all right, this Roadblock, this sounds good, man. Rok-C is going to be in this big match. Shawn Michaels and Grayson has been so good that this is going to be a good segment. I could just feel it. Gigi and Jacy, just the whole storyline, starting with Toxic Attraction. It's a grudge match that you just have to see. I was like, well, what the fuck am I doing, man? I might as well will review this. And a lot of my amplified unit has been starting to really get into NXT more. I don't know if that's from JR9. Much love and respect, brother. But it was many things, and I was just like, no, I'm going to do Roadblock. Let's rock it. And I'm so glad that I did. The first hour, nothing that special, but kept me tuned in. Didn't get bored at all. Anticipated the second hour. And the second hour, straight out of the park. You ain't finding that ball. Amazing, man. Match of the year we got last night for the females. Who would have thought? You never know when you're going to get it, right? You never know when you're going to get it, dude. All right, guys. BC, we have much more content coming up this week. Tomorrow could even be a double vid day. We're going to have to see. And of course, SmackDown coming in as we get closer to the road to WrestleMania. We're already on the fucking road, bro. We're already on the fucking, what am I saying, man? Everybody better be in the fucking car at this point. So a lot more content coming up, man. Don't forget to smash that up on the way out. And till next time, guys. Top guy, I'm out. BC saying check you. Think, be, live, amped, always. Salute. We the ones. The rest, they all the twos. Check you.